Everybody, welcome to our final educators chat of the 2019-2020 school year. I'm Eric, you know Sarah, and you're meeting Marcus Scheer, the technology, tell me the title, Marcus.
Technology coordinator.
Technology coordinator,
Yeah.
Johnson County Central, Tecumseh, Cook area. We know Marcus probably better than anybody we've talked to in all of these, so we were kind of saving him for the end. So much has changed from the week of boys state basketball till now. School as we know it is completely different. It could be different going forward. We don't know that yet. What is something though for you, Marcus, that changed the most once you got into the process of changing things?
What has changed the most? Um, I think for teachers, it's finally realizing that they can communicate with students other than physically being in the classroom with them, whether that's through email or through Zoom or through Google Classroom. Um, for me, it's I don't know. That was a kind of a tough one. It was a lot of support right away, but now that we're trying to get into like our normal summer orders, so April and May is a lot of planning for me. That's been kind of tough because as much as you want to do stuff through Zoom and remote, um, there's a lot of stuff that you still want to be able to to talk with people about, gauge your reaction about, without it being too formal, like a video conferencing might be.
Do you find yourself being more formal on Zoom?
Of course, because like you have to say, "Hey, are you free at this time?" I mean, it's a lot of like it's one thing to go walk down the hall and knock on someone's door and be like, "Hey, do you have time to chat for 5 minutes?" Or if you run into them in the hallway versus Zoom, it's like, "Hey, would, tomorrow at 2 work?" And then sometimes you have to adjust that time and then everybody has to sit down and be ready at that time. And it seems pretty formal.
Marcus, I love JCC's social content, and I feel like I've been following you and JCC on Twitter pretty closely during this time. So,
Thanks.
um, can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you've been doing for social media and how you continue to engage with the community?
Yeah, so I would say since I'm not an administrator, there's a lot of things that like that we could have done or whatever that like I was like, okay, what can I control? Like what are the projects that I'm really in charge about and how can I make an impact? Whether it's to kind of engage our community, help highlight our student work. And so the first one that came to mind was our Strive Top 10, which was inspired. Carney did the same thing for their Strive, and that was really well done. And I was like, well, that's something that easily I can do. I have all the resources I have. I mean, I have all the recordings. So I started making the list, which was tough to come up with what was going to be on the top 10. I rewatched all the videos to come up with the script. And then I sent the script off to one of our senior Strive students and asked him to record it, which was difficult because um, I knew he was busy and I didn't want to have to be too much, take up too much time of his. So, um, it was tough because he didn't know how I meant different things to be worded or inflections and stuff like that. But so it was kind of back and forth a little bit with that. But overall, the final product I think turned out really well. Um, yeah, it was something that I thought was a good time to do it with everybody being stuck at home.
And then you had the cool lot of drone shots. I know that the drone took a tumble at the end
Yep.
of the shooting day, but
I didn't see that.
the drone project was fun.
Yeah, that was another project that was inspired by another school's posting, which I would say that's like probably one of the number one reasons why I'd recommend getting on Twitter is to connect with other people or you can get inspired on other projects. But the one I saw specifically was Millard West. They had a video that they put together that was like a message to their students. And again, I thought, well, that's something that I can kind of do. So what my plan was, and it ended up working out, was I was just going to shoot it all, edit it all, and then send it off to our admin team and see what they thought. It ended up I got positive feedback on it, and then it ended up getting a lot of user engagement on Facebook, which was good. But yeah, at the end of the day, I was at about the 40-minute mark and I crashed my drone, and it was the lamest crash ever. It was maybe 20 feet away from me, like only 8 feet off the ground, and it landed in mulch,
Uh,
and it still got damaged. And so, I paid for it to get repaired, so it should be coming back here. So
darn it.
yeah.
Didn't that happen to Taylor when he first got his drone, or was that you, Eric?
I no, I don't have the drone, but he did crash his like 2 weeks after he got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe not even. Yeah, one of the first times. Now he's got one of those little ones. Anyway, the content is a good thing to maybe talk about, because Marcus, you're in a position that is a little different than, and I think everybody that we have interviewed for this educators chat has had a different role within the school. Your role doesn't put you in a classroom uh, specifically with teaching kids. So, but you do a ton on social media. So how do you and the admin team at JCC collaborate, talk about the things that you guys want to put out on social media, and how do you guys make that whole thing happen?
Well, it's probably not the most efficient, but basically, I tell our whole staff and even our students, like, if you have something that you want posted, like, I can't just read your mind and steal your photos from your devices to post it. So let us know about events. Let us, if you have photos that you would like posted, send them my way. Um, I mean, specifically, I would give a shout out to our principal, John Rother, who has really helped a ton on the social media front, and not only with posting stuff, but also taking photos at events that he's been at too. So between the two of us, we handle a lot of literal posting of it, but it's a matter. Well, between the two of us, also we are at probably, I don't know, 90% of the events too, so that kind of helps. But but yeah, well, it's probably not the most efficient, but we just touch base with each other. Like if he has something that he wants to post, just to double check it hasn't been posted yet or whatever. So
Right. And I think another thing that I want to ask you about is what you do, and I realize it's perhaps a little easier because you do so much of the content creation, but the brand and the
yeah.
presentation of materials for JCC's social is amazingly consistent,
mhm.
and I think it's something that more schools probably should be emulating. Give us like a little synopsis of what you kind of went through to make sure the colors are right, the fonts right, and all of that's consistent.
Well, I guess I would start kind of at the beginning, because I also help design like our paper programs that get handed out at events. And while that's a job that I could send off to someone else, it would end up going to somebody maybe with maybe not any experience with design. Uh, but it's the integration part of why I keep doing it, because I end up developing a style that either run the whole school year or run through that sports season, and that style will then translate with like the same font type, the same color treatments. It will be similar to what we do on social media and our live streams, and so um, that's kind of why I've done it, because I want to it's easier for me to do it if it's just one person. But it'd be just like you do for your yearbook, where when you establish your style guide. And so overall, yeah, the first year I did that, I kind of standardized our colors, because no one really had good hex codes for that. But after that, it kind of just rolls into that. So then every year I'm trying to always find inspiration, because sometimes I'm not very good with coming up with my own ideas. I like to kind of take different things that I see that I'll try to kind of incorporate that style.
I want to know who you follow, Marcus, and who you steal these ideas from.
Well,
Personally, when I had to create a graphic one time, it was for Stripe Sports. I was all over ESPN because I loved their stuff and tried to emulate it. But yeah, I would love to know who you look at and who you draw inspiration from.
it's probably so many random people that I can't even think of any names off the top of my head. Um, I guess the one that comes to mind right away is Poster Swag on Twitter. I'm not sure even what their handle is, but they do a ton of highlighting a lot of college athletic programs, which college athletic programs have been doing some fantastic work. But they highlight a lot of the posters that come out of there, and then that's a lot of times where I find people. Heck, I follow the guy that he works in the LSU athletic department that did the Joe Burrow draft day video, where they that they put on their social media, and I can't tell you his name either. Um,
The LSU guy.
yeah, I would say during the COVID-19 pandemic, I have started to follow even more people, not necessarily in like even my work related stuff, but like all the like the hobby stuff I enjoy, whether it's like music, movies, yeah, it's just people doing really good work, and sometimes it's helpful to inspire me to do other things. Sometimes it's just entertaining. But yeah, it's a lot of different people, a lot of places that I draw inspiration from. So
And not all are athletic type
correct.
follows, right? I
Yep.
mean, there's more, some that are just cool design people.
Yep. Yeah,
Very cool.
like well, Ben Morehorn has helped me a lot in terms of finding different YouTube things, because YouTube, especially when it comes like to video stuff, there's so many people that you could follow that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes it's just too much information. And he's like talking with him, he has some specific ones where he could start with. But I mean, heck, this one guy, his last video he just posted was like taking household goods around your house to make audio sounds and manipulate those in your editing program to make them sound like high quality audio stuff. So yeah, it's all over the place. Like, I don't know, my leisure time, I imagine it's probably 50-50 of whether I'm purposely trying to learn something versus enjoy something. But then half the time when I'm enjoying something, I see something that's like, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think that's what makes you really unique and such a great creator, Marcus, is because you're always learning something new and always like sharing stuff on our Slack channel, like, hey, take a look at this, or have you thought about this? And that's really cool.
What is something that I guess we have kind of asked this a little bit to some other people, but what is something that has come about for you guys at JCC this spring with COVID-19 and everything going on, that even if we got back to a building full of students right away when we come back in August, what's something that you think might carry over that you guys have done as a district?
Well, there's some things that I would like to see done. They're kind of more big picture things, so I don't know how we're going to accomplish those. Um, Such as like the you saw those memes of parents that were like, okay, you had to go to whatchamacallit for one class and another thing for this doohickey for this other class, and um, people don't always think that's a tech problem, or like when they implement something, they don't you know, that's just something good. Well, until you get a class full of 40 kids, and then a family that has 3 kids in your class, and now all of a sudden they have to know 10 different tech things just to see grades or talk to the teacher. It becomes an issue where I think at the district level or the school level, you can kind of help assist that, whether so you can make it easier for not only for teachers but also for students and parents. And that's one of the bigger goals I have in terms of, people have used different things like Class Dojo for parent communication to try to streamline that regardless of what grade level you're in, and kind of help spend less time teching and more time educating. I would say that would probably be the biggest one that I'd like to see happen. Um, Overall, I feel like our school is in a really nice position in terms of being able to prepare for remote learning on a quick cycle. We were one-to-one iPads, 6 through 12, and a lot of our teachers were using digital ways to communicate and send information back and forth. Um, we did send some hotspots home for some kids who didn't have internet at home. Um, but moving forward, I'm not, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know if I have a good answer for you. Uh,
Oh no,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
interesting because big picture stuff is probably the thing that is most concerning at this point, right? Figuring out, okay, awesome if we can be fully back in August, but if we can't and we have to pick up where we kind of left off with everybody this spring, yeah, the more people that plan for that and talk about that. And we were talking with Lisa yesterday. They've already at least started discussions. You know, everybody hopes that you don't have to go to it, but we don't know. That's one of the unknowns of this part. And
Well, I could ramble on about some of the things we've talked about, because sometimes all it takes is like hearing other people talk. And like, I feel like I don't need to hear myself talk, but you know, it's inspiring to me when I can hear other people talk about tech stuff. And people have talked about, you know, how to try to partner with other businesses in your district to help provide Wi-Fi for kids. Stuff like that. To you know, different companies provide subsidized internet for homes. That is a federal program that internet providers can participate in. And, you know, like schools like LPS have went with LTE devices to try to help with home equity. You know, we're trying to figure out, you know, how do you handle anything from as simple as lunch to busing to handling devices in terms of keeping social distancing and sanitizing. And so, you know, whether you're, you know, how many schools have had a shared device, whether that's a computer lab or a Chromebook or iPad. And if, you know, potentially 3 to 4 people were using that every day, how do you handle that?
because, you know, I can't imagine at this point, I can't imagine that on August 15th,
Mm-hmm.
anybody can open a door to a school building in the state of Nebraska and welcome every kid in and have absolutely no restriction some way, right? Like, how are we going to like tell some kids, okay, you come to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you guys come Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to space out desks, everybody's just going to have class in the gym because that's the biggest place we have to have the most kids. I can't imagine that's like those conversations are going to be happening in the next 2 weeks. Like, what's August going to look like?
Well, I mean, those are the conversations that's happening, but this is where like some of the sci-fi entertainment books and movies can kind of provide inspiration, because sometimes that's where we end up going. And if you look at Ready Player One, like they don't really talk about it as much in the movie as the book, but um, the main character goes to school through the Oasis, through his VR stuff, and that's how he actually has that system, because he can't afford it, but he has it through his school. And you know, I've kind of wondered, like, literally, like, could you be setting up cubicles in a big room that were all separated, and everybody's just, you know, right now it'd be sitting at a device, but you know, potentially you could be putting on a VR device, and then you're not physically going to your different places, but you're all participating remotely. And I know remote learning is not perfect, but you know,
But
how much further until we do
right,
something like that?
if mom and dad have to go back to work,
Yeah.
these kids can't just stay home, you know, and daycares are full. So I think that will be a big change too. We're lucky that some parents do get to stay home. Eric, I know you're in you're in the boat where you feel lucky to have a daycare right now for your
Right.
kids, but that's really going to change too. And yeah, I hear you, Marcus. I think if they can get kids in the building where they're taken care of, they're fed, they're in these cubicles, that's way better than anything that involves staying home.
The biggest tech concern I have would be is just what's your infrastructure like in buildings? Because, and the only reason that even comes up is because in one of our tech coordinator meetings, you know, someone was asking about HVAC controls being Wi-Fi connected. And part of that reason is because of the cost to wire a new building. To, you know, you're wiring a cable to each one of those spots, and that's going to save you a lot of money. But like, if you have kids all over your school that are trying to stream stuff, you know, like, you know, potentially, you know, everything from like DL, where your teacher is literally not at the same school, to like, if we have to do more social distancing, your teacher may not be, I mean, maybe still is in the district, but maybe is on a different floor or in a different building, and to make sure that there's enough infrastructure in place to handle all of that network usage.
Marcus, to wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts or words to share with other educators?
Well, we did the Strive Top 10 and our video message to students, but I'm hoping once I get all staff back that maybe we can be creative in terms of how we can connect with our families again, with our staff. I guess like I didn't even talk about our honors day for our high school. Yeah, most of the presentation was our principal and superintendent, literally presenting the awards on camera. But all high school staff was invited to send videos in that we sliced into the presentation. And I think the more teachers and any staff members, whether it's administrators, paras, are comfortable with sitting down in front of a camera and just delivering a message, and it can be a simple message. That stuff I think resonates with families and on social media. And so because there is a lot of uncertainty in terms of next year, I'm hoping that I guess it's not even just my school, but any other school, more and more of that kind of happens, because I think, of course, being in person is going to be the most ideal. And even if we come back, but have all that stuff planned, so then you can try to do it, because right now it's hard to implement anything new.
Yeah.
So.
Right. All right. Well, Marcus, thanks so much for stopping and talking with us, and have a great summer. And let's do this again in August.
Thank you guys for having me on.